Good morning from Mango Man Homestead. Wanted to take a couple moments here to talk about rootstocks for mangoes and basically what our plans are or how we manage our rootstocks. We've been doing mangoes for over 30 years here in South Florida, and so often people make one of the big mistakes people make is they start with a bad tree because they don't start with the right rootstock. So the first thing we do when you're going to propagate a mango tree is you have to start with a good, healthy rootstock that works for what the needs you have for that tree. So our bread and butter, the main rootstock we use is a turpentine right here. Now this turpentine is about 3-4 months old from seed. It was planted about 3 or 4 months old, 3 months ago. We separated. By the way, Chago wanted to have a shout out. These were the rootstocks that he planted this summer, and I must say they were done at perfect timing. He removed the seeds, removed the husk, planted them, I separated them, and now we have a nice rootstock. In another month we'll be able to graft these, so by the end of September we should be able to graft these for next year's trees. But this is a very, very healthy tree. Turpentine is the one rootstock that is tried and true here in South Florida. You have to use a ripe turpentine. We use a small turpentine that we have selected over the years that we find is the most uniform. It gives us the best tree growth. It's very healthy, very doesn't have a lot of micronutrient problems. So this is the one we use when we need a standard mango tree, if you will, when we don't need any surprises and we already have a scion that's already of appropriate size for our orchard. We'll use a turpentine. We also use this is a Sabre. So if turpentine is the mutt of the New World, in other words, turpentine is the lowest common denominator of a mango. When you plant mangoes from seeds over decades, you end up with a turpentine here in the Americas. In Africa, you end up with a Sabre. It's the same idea. It's the lowest common denominator of a mango planted from seed. They're polyembryonic. They make very nice, healthy root systems, and they're strong. And again, they do tend to have a little more dwarfing than our turpentines when we use them for rootstock, but they're not totally consistent. So we do like it though. We do like it for our, again, if we're going to graft, most of our trees will graft on turpentine. I particularly like to on Sabre. I particularly like to use my Indian varieties grafted, or varieties that come from Indian heritage. I like to graft on Sabre. Again, there's no experiments, controlled experiments that we've ever used. This is just from trial and error, the things that we've found. But Sabre is one that we will use, and we basically use it just like we use a turpentine. Now, this is a Piva. Now, Piva is an off-type Sabre. All right, so this is the fruit look like a Sabre, the seeds look like a Sabre. The only difference is, in general, Piva grows slower, and it is a off-type that will tend to dwarf most of the scions that you put on it. Sometimes it dwarfs them too much. Sometimes it's perfect. So again, we use this Piva as our rootstock for all of our Indian varieties that are too big to fit into our orchards. So it is kind of this is kind of our experimental rootstock that we use to try to dwarf most of our, to keep varieties that are not scion dwarfs, that are going to be too big, that we try to make smaller. We've been using Piva for about 15 years. We find it does work well, but it does take a lot longer to make a tree. Sometimes it can take you 3, 4, 5 years in order to get a decent little fruiting tree when you're using Piva as a rootstock. So it's not probably applicable for most people in home orchards, but for us, in order to fit into our high efficiency systems that we use, they are a very useful rootstock that we use. Now, so just in summary, then we have our Turpentine, we have our Sabre, and we have our Piva. All right, these are the 3 rootstocks that we use here at Mango Man Homestead in order to create a high efficiency, high quality, and very much controlled and healthy ecosystem in our orchard. Thank you very much.